It's rather curious, isn't it? How we so desperately try to be natural. We strain to relax. We force ourselves to let go. And we clench our fists in the hope that one day we'll finally stop clenching them. You may have noticed this peculiar loop in yourself. The moment you try to be spontaneous, it slips away. You tell yourself, just be. And immediately, you are no longer being. You are trying to be. The effort to be effortless is still effort. It's like commanding the heart to beat or the rain to fall. The very command assumes separation, that you are something apart from the beating, apart from the falling, apart from the life that's already happening. So long as there's a you trying to relax, the relaxation never comes. We are like people trying to sleep by telling ourselves, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. The more you demand it, the more awake you become. Because sleep doesn't come by effort. It comes when effort ends. You see, the entire trouble begins the moment we divide ourselves, when the mind sets itself against itself. The watcher watching the thoughts, the doer trying to undo doing, the ego trying to kill the ego. And yet this split is an illusion. You can no more step outside yourself to control yourself than a fire can burn itself. But still, the mind insists. I must improve. I must transcend. I must awaken. And what happens? The very act of striving to awaken only deepens the sleep. It's like stirring the water to make it clear. The more you stir, the muddier it becomes. But if you leave it alone, then the silt slowly settles. The clarity was never lost. It was only disturbed by your attempt to fix it. Have you noticed this in the quiet moments of your life? When you stop reaching, stop grasping, something opens. It's subtle, almost imperceptible. The air softens, the tension melts, and you realize, for the briefest instant, that everything is already in its place. You didn't create that peace. You stumbled upon it by accident when the controller got tired and took a rest. But then, you try to repeat it. You say, that was it. That was presence. That was stillness. That was enlightenment. I must find that again, and there it goes. Gone the instant it's named. Because you see, the moment you try to hold it, you've lost it. The flower of ease blooms only in the soil of surrender. We have been taught since childhood that effort is virtue. Work hard, strive, conquer, achieve. And so we apply the same logic to the inner life. We turn the search for peace into another competition, another project for the restless self. But peace is not a reward. It is not something you win by effort. It's more like noticing that the music was already playing. You were just too busy humming your own tune to hear it. Life does not need your control. It never did. The tree does not strain to grow. The bird does not rehearse its song. The river does not try to flow downhill. Yet all move perfectly, each in harmony with the whole. So why should you be any different? You too are a movement of the universe, no less natural than the tide or the wind. But somewhere along the way, you began to believe that you were the one doing it, that you were the author, the manager, the conductor of life's great orchestra. And so, you try to play your part correctly. You tighten up, watching yourself perform, hoping not to miss a note. And in that very effort, the music falters. For the true melody of life plays only when the player forgets himself. When the dancer disappears, there is only the dance. But of course, the question arises, how can I stop trying? Do you see the trick? Even that is effort. The desire to stop desiring, the attempt to end attempts. You're trying to let go of trying. And that's like trying to bite your own teeth. So long as there's someone there doing the letting go, it isn't really letting go. It's just another disguise of control. The self is a very clever illusion. It can turn even surrender into a strategy. But when you truly see this game, see it completely, without condemnation or pride, something profound happens. You laugh. Not because it's funny in the ordinary sense, but because you finally recognize the cosmic joke, that all your effort to escape the trap was the trap. And in that laughter, effort falls away on its own. You can't force this recognition, any more than you can force yourself to sneeze. It happens when it happens, when the absurdity of control becomes too obvious to ignore. Like a child suddenly realizing that the shadow he's been chasing is his own. Then you stop, you breathe, and life, which never stopped moving, carries on, effortlessly. You see, the art of living is not about mastering life. It's about realizing that life was never something separate from you to be mastered. The river doesn't need to understand its current to flow. The moon doesn't need to believe in gravity to orbit the earth. And you don't need to control your existence to be alive. You simply are. That's the secret we keep missing in our restless pursuit of peace. We think life must be attained, achieved, earned. But what if it's already here? What if awakening is not an attainment, but a recognition, like remembering a song you've always known? The effort to be effortless keeps you spinning in circles, like a cat chasing its tail. But once the cat realizes the tail is its own, the chase ends, not because it decided to stop, but because it saw through the game. And in that moment, what was once effort becomes play. Now, you may ask, if everything is already happening, if life simply unfolds, then what becomes of me? What of my choices, my will, my striving? That is where the illusion is most convincing, this sense of being a separate chooser, perched somewhere behind the eyes, steering the body through the world like a captain at the helm. But look closer. When you move your hand, do you really know how you do it? You can say, I decided to lift my hand. But how did you carry out that decision? Can you describe the exact process by which intention becomes muscle? By which thought becomes motion? You can't. It happens of itself. Even the thought, I will lift my hand, appeared without your permission. It arose just as clouds arise in the sky. So where then is this you who imagines himself the source of effort? He is a mirage, shimmering between moments, an echo the mind mistakes for a voice. Imagine watching a leaf drift down a stream. The water carries it along, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, swirling in eddies, gliding over stones. And then picture the leaf suddenly believing it is pushing itself forward. Absurd, isn't it? But that's precisely what we do. We believe we are the doers of life, rather than the happening of it. When you see this clearly, effort becomes unnecessary. Not because you become passive, but because you recognize that what you called your effort was never separate from the flow in the first place. The painter paints, the tree grows, the bird flies. Each movement arises spontaneously, without conflict. It is only when thought steps in and says, I am doing this, that tension appears. And so, the effort to be effortless is like the leaf straining to float downstream. It creates ripples where none were needed. There's a story I once heard, though it may have never happened, about a man who spent years learning how to breathe properly. He studied all the techniques, all the postures, all the theories of respiration. He analyzed his inhalations and exhalations until he was utterly exhausted. And one day, sitting in a quiet forest, he saw a deer grazing nearby. The deer was breathing too, but it wasn't doing anything. It was simply alive. And in that instant, he laughed because he realized that the whole time, life had been breathing him. This is how awakening happens. Not as a grand revelation, but as a soft collapse of pretense. A sigh of recognition that you were never separate from the process you were trying to control. The effort to be effortless dissolves when you see that effort was never your own. You see, effort is the child of resistance. Wherever there's an idea of I must, there's a hidden I must not. Every push hides a pull. Every trying conceals an aversion. When you try to be good, you are resisting what you call bad. When you try to be calm, you are resisting chaos. When you try to be awake, you are resisting your sleep. And so the struggle goes on, opposites wrestling within the same dream. But what if the good and the bad, the calm and the chaos, the awake and the asleep, were never truly apart? Like the crest and trough of a single wave, they define each other. You cannot have one without the other. So long as you try to stand on only one side, you fight the ocean itself. The miracle is not to escape the opposites, but to see that you are the whole movement. The rising and falling, the reaching and resting, the effort and the ease. When you see this, you no longer choose one against the other. You let the tide come and go as it pleases, and in that surrender, something extraordinary happens. You discover that the water carries you perfectly. But this surrender cannot be achieved. It cannot be forced, because forced surrender is just another form of control. You can't plan your spontaneity. You can't schedule your surrender. You can only see that control was never yours to begin with. And that seeing, that silent recognition, is itself the letting go. Like a knot untangling itself the moment it realizes there was never a rope. So you may continue to meditate, to pray, to seek, but watch how easily the seeker becomes the barrier. Notice how effort, however noble, turns the sacred into strategy. Then, perhaps, you will begin to sense the subtle rhythm underneath, the effortless pulse that has been beating through every moment of your life, even while you were trying so hard to find it. That is grace, not something given, but something noticed when the noise quiets. It was never missing, only obscured by effort, and perhaps in the stillness between thoughts, you might glimpse the truth that all of this, your striving, your relaxing, your searching, your surrendering, was the universe at play. The actor forgot his role and thought the play was real, but even that forgetting was part of the performance. The laughter, the tears, the failure, the victory, all of it the same movement, the same eternal dance pretending to be a struggle. And the punchline is this: nothing ever went wrong. When this insight begins to dawn, even faintly, the world changes its texture. You notice that the wind no longer seems to blow at you. It moves through you. The sound of traffic becomes a kind of music, not a disturbance. Your breath, once something to control or observe, becomes effortless, as natural as the tides. And you realize that this ease was never something to achieve. It was what you were resisting all along by trying so hard to find it. The clouds never stop the sky from being sky. They just decorate it for a while. In the same way, all your thoughts, all your efforts, all your spiritual gymnastics never obscure what you truly are. They only dance upon its surface. You, the great background of being, remain untouched. But of course the mind asks again, then what am I supposed to do about it? Do you see? The mind can't help itself. It needs an assignment, a direction, a goal. It lives by contrast. Without effort, it fears disappearing. So let it ask. Let it whirl. Let it plan its little plans. You don't need to fight the mind. That too is more effort. Just notice that it's part of the same dance. Trying to silence the mind is like throwing stones into a pond to make it still. The ripples only multiply. But if you leave it be, if you stop fighting your own noise, the water clears itself. Stillness happens when you no longer demand it. Have you ever watched a cat basking in the sun? It doesn't meditate to achieve stillness. It doesn't practice being in the moment. It is the moment, simply because it never left. The human mind, however, lives half a step behind reality, always chasing what has already moved. We seek peace as if it were somewhere else, and in that seeking, we overlook the peace that was never absent. You can't be more present than you already are. You can only notice that you were never elsewhere. It's a strange thing. The more we try to awaken, the more asleep we become to the truth that awakening is not a future event. It's not the end of the journey. It's the recognition that there was never anywhere to go. The path disappears the moment you see that the destination was here all along. So the invitation is not to try to be effortless, but to see through the one who tries. Who is it that struggles? Who is it that seeks? Look closely, and you'll find nothing solid, just thoughts chasing thoughts, stories telling stories, waves rising and falling in the same ocean, and the ocean was never disturbed. Sometimes you might sense a deep fatigue with all this seeking, a longing to stop, to rest, to just be. That weariness is not failure. It's the first sign of awakening. For when the seeker grows tired, the search begins to fade, and in that fading, something vast appears. Not as an achievement, but as what was always here, waiting patiently beneath the noise of striving. The effort to be effortless was like trying to brighten the sun with a candle. You can't add light to what already shines. Life, you see, is not a test to pass or a puzzle to solve. It's more like a melody, not meant to reach a conclusion, but to be heard and played and lived. We suffer because we imagine we are the musicians struggling to get the tune right, while forgetting that we are the music itself. So the point was never to control the rhythm, but to listen deeply enough that you realize it's already perfect. When you stop insisting that life follow your beat, you discover that you were moving in time all along. The effort was only the hesitation before the dance. And then, without your doing, something beautiful happens. You find yourself breathing without trying, smiling without reason, acting without calculation. Life begins to live you, and that is effortless. But do not make even that into a goal. For the moment you think, I've found the secret, you've turned it back into effort again. Let the realization come and go like waves on the shore. The sea doesn't grieve when one wave disappears. It knows another will rise in its place. So it is with understanding. It flows in, it flows out. You don't need to hold it. To live effortlessly is simply to allow the tides of experience to come and go, knowing that you are not the waves, but the water itself. And when that becomes clear, even faintly, you see that there was never anything wrong with effort itself. You were meant to try, to strive, to stumble. That too was part of the cosmic game. Life exploring what it feels like to forget its own ease. The universe doesn't reject effort any more than it rejects stillness. Both are its expressions, its changing moods, its play of light and shadow. Effort isn't your enemy. It's simply efforting. Rest isn't your prize. It's simply resting. When you stop judging the rhythm, the music reveals its harmony. So if you find yourself trying again, trying to be calm, trying to be awake, trying to let go, let that be. Let the trying happen. Don't make war with it. Because even the effort to be effortless is still life being itself. You can't step outside the dance to correct the steps. You are the dance, mistakes, and all. And when you see that, something remarkable happens. Even your struggle becomes graceful. Think of the wind passing through a forest. Some branches bend easily, others resist. Yet the wind makes music from both. So it is with you. Whether you yield or resist, flow or fight, life plays through you all the same. You cannot step out of harmony, even when you believe you have. The tension you feel is simply part of the song, a note resolving itself into the next. And perhaps that's the secret hiding in plain sight. Life doesn't require your permission to be perfect. It already is. All your effort was only ever an echo of that perfection, a dream of control that kept you busy until you were ready to laugh. And oh, what a sweet laughter it is. The sound of the universe remembering itself. You begin to see that effort and effortless were never opposites at all. They are like inhaling and exhaling, each giving rise to the other, each incomplete without the other. Effort is the movement of the wave. Effortlessness is the stillness of the sea. But the wave and the sea were never separate. The same water takes both shapes. And so, when you find yourself striving, it's all right. When you find yourself resting, it's all right. The whole point is that there was never a point to reach, only the joy of seeing that the current carries you regardless. It's a quiet kind of joy, this understanding. Not the joy of victory, but of recognition. The joy of realizing that you were home the whole time. There's nothing left to achieve, and yet life continues to unfold, full, alive, spontaneous. The sunrise still paints the sky. The heartbeat still hums. The laughter still comes. You have not become passive or detached. On the contrary, you are more alive than ever, because you no longer stand apart from your own living. The dancer has vanished into the dance. So listen, you don't need to throw away your effort. You only need to see it for what it is, a wave of the sea, a movement of the whole. And when you see that, when the illusion of control relaxes, effort begins to move on its own, like breath, like wind, like love. You speak when words come, and you are silent when they don't. You act when the impulse arises, and you rest when it fades. You no longer try to be effortless, because the one who tried has melted into what is. And that, my friend, is the great paradox, the effortless effort of being. So now, let everything be exactly as it is. The thoughts, the tensions, the laughter, the tears, let them play their part. You are not here to fix the dream, but to wake up within it. Not to force the flow, but to notice that it was flowing all along. The effort to be effortless dissolves in this seeing, like morning mist in sunlight. And what remains is so simple, so ordinary, so complete. Just the pulse of life, quietly saying, this, only this.